So with the graphs and tables, most of these are going to look like what you've done before. Today we're going to be looking at frequency tables. And they usually give you a box with a whole bunch of dog, cat, whatever, and then you have to create a table and show tally marks for all the different things. So if it's something on your favorite sport, football, soccer, baseball. Anyway, when you do this, you're just doing tally marks, or you could just do numbers to show your data. They kind of switch back and forth and do it both ways. So you'll have some practice with these today, but these are the easiest ones because you're basically just doing tally marks. Something to be careful of when you're creating these is to make sure you have a title, and each section, like number of kids that like it, and this would just be frequency. Make sure, like, if you're going to create something like this, that you've at least got titles and everything there. The next one that we're going to be practicing with are bar graphs, which we'll speed through because bar graphs are something you've made since preschool. The big thing to watch out for, again, titles are important. You've got to have them. Sometimes they will have bar graphs that are not counting by ones, and we'll count by 25s or 10s or 5s and so on. This is called the scale. And I've seen questions that will say something like, what's the scale? Well, this one they're counting by 25, right? So pay attention to that, because the tick marks on the left side of your bar graph may not always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes they're counting by 2, sometimes they're counting by 5, sometimes they're counting by hundreds, depending on what it is. And that depends on what they're measuring and how much they have to fit into a graph. But bar graphs are pretty easy, and before we get to the end, I'll show you how to make them in Excel, and they're really fast and really easy, and I'll teach you a trick to make those in the computer. Another one we're going to talk about are dot plots, which I know you guys had in 4th grade, and those have a line. And they just have dots to represent one student or one vote or whatever the case may be for the table. I will say the thing I see about these that kind of is hard when y'all are making them, like some people do their dots like this, and it's like, it's hard to count this. So I would just say, like, if you're making a dot plot, make sure you're using bigger dots and try to keep them all lined up in a row as best you can. I also have seen them with X's. X's are usually a little bit easier to line up. So just be careful of that. And then the one that kids usually forget some about are the stem and leaf. The things to be careful about with these guys, because because you have, oh, this one's running out, your stem and your leaf. In 5th grade, I see the key change a lot. So 1/5 might equal 1.5. So make sure you know what you're looking at with the stem and leaf plot, because it may be a decimal, it may be a fraction, it may be something you're not used to seeing. And wait, that's not what I wanted to do. 7. So like this would be 4/10, 7/10, 7/10, 7/10, 8/10. A 1 and a 2, 3, 3, 6 would be 1 and 2/10, 1 and 3/10, 1 and 3/10, 1 and 6/10 for this key. A lot of times it'll be 12, 13, 13, 16. Whatever is your stem right here is what's going in front. The leaf is just the back end of it. Also, these go in numerical order, and they're better lined up than that. Oh, you can't see that, sorry. So stem and leaf are pretty easy once you get the hang of it. However, another word you're going to have to know is range. And it'll say what's the range of the data in this stem and leaf table. And basically, when you're doing that, you just take the smallest number in the pile and the largest number in the pile, and you subtract. So on this particular one, it would be 2 and 2/10 minus 4/10. And my range would be 1 and 8/10. This is going to come up in middle school quite a bit when you get to graphing in middle school, so make sure you know that word. Any questions so far? So as far as like new stuff you guys have to know, dot plot should be pretty easy. You've done it before. Bar graphs, frequency tables. Stem and leaf usually are harder for you guys. And a lot of the word problems you just have to read really carefully because it's comparing. What is the difference between the sport with the most number of students voting than the least? And then you're looking for the largest and the smallest, and you're subtracting. The range and the scale, I would say in this whole unit, the questions I see miss the most have to do with one of those guys there. Any questions?